All right, so this is a new location for me. I'm on a trail above Graywell Cove, thinking of making something of the scene behind me. The thing that caught my eye about this scene was the pattern of the trees. We've got a large tree here, mid-sized tree, then a small tree, and also the clouds. Obviously the clouds are changing constantly, but I hope to drop down the distant mountain a bit here and include some interesting cloud patterns. I'll be using my usual limited palette of colors. I've got cadmium yellow lemon, cadmium yellow medium, titanium white, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, and a bit of permanent red medium. And I'll be painting over an old painting. This is a 12 by 16 inch panel. Starting with a mixture of titanium white, cadmium yellow medium, and some burnt sienna. I've got a light orange mixture here so that I can see my sketch. I realize this is really confusing. It's confusing for me too, but as I've said in the past, I kind of like the idea of being slightly thrown off balance. And also when painting over an old panel, I'm sort of forced to focus on shapes. So today could be a good opportunity to share with you how I do focus on shapes. I usually try to break a scene down into, say, 7 to 10 simple shapes. All right, for the dark portion of the trees, I'm mixing up a warm green here. So far I've used ultramarine blue and cadmium yellow medium, but I'm gonna add a bit of alizarin crimson. I don't know if you can see what that's doing, but it warms up the green quite a bit. So we got the tree here and then also the shadow that it's casting. And there's a tree right over here. The shape is not very inspiring. It's kind of just a circular shape. So I'm gonna change the shape of this tree, try to maybe make it a little more irregular. There's another tree right here. That may be a little big. I can reduce the size of that though. I'm gonna move this tree over closer to the right-hand side of the panel, and then there's some shrubs on the lower corner here as well. Now I've got some pure ultramarine blue defining the outline of the tree, and this will help me when I go to scrub in the background. All right, moving the smaller tree away from the center, and I've got this tree in the foreground partially obscuring the tree in the background. All right, I've got a mixture of titanium white and phthalo blue, and I'm using a natural bristle number 6. It's a flat, and I'm gonna leave some unpainted areas for clouds. For the hill in the background, I'm starting with a mid-tone gray-green, and I'm using the negative space around the trees to carve out the positive shape of the trees. For the clouds, starting with a mixture of titanium white and alizarin crimson. So it's sort of a light pink color. A little bit of blue here. I'm going to take that out. I kind of want to have the cloud run off of the top. I used to try to contain everything within the picture, but now I try to have certain things run off the edge, like branches of a tree or clouds, that sort of thing. All right, I mixed up a light green using a cadmium yellow lemon, phthalo blue, touch of cadmium yellow medium, and titanium white. Again, using the negative space to carve out the positive shapes. All right, I've got sort of a warm yellow ochre color here for the trail. Stepping back about 10 feet, looking at the big shapes. As I mentioned, I want to have 7 to 10 simple shapes to work with. Trying to decide if I want to change anything. I actually like the shape of the trees, and I do like the arrangement. I think the mountain should come down a little bit over here, and I don't like how the cloud is directly in the center. So I might want to move it over a little to the left. So I'll experiment with that. Once you start composing with large shapes, I think the whole painting process becomes more enjoyable, and it also opens up other subjects. So in other words, you're not necessarily out looking for pretty things to paint. You're out looking for interesting shapes to paint. Coming back in with my sky mixture here, again using the negative space of the sky to carve out the positive shape of the clouds. And I'll take down this top here a little bit. I realized that the clouds are somewhat broken up, especially this little bit here, but I tried to keep the other portion of clouds connected so that it is one shape, although an unusual one. I think I like that arrangement better, although that's a bit of a steep drop off over here. Maybe that's better. All right, I'm going to suggest a few small trees in the background, and then maybe a few up along the ridge. Okay, so there is the composition. So from here, I've just got to decide what I want to do. I could leave it very simple, or I could work into these shapes with any level of detail that I feel I want to. I do like to leave my paintings feeling simple and not overworked, so I'm going to proceed with caution. I am going to work into these shapes, but I'm going to be careful not to break up this design. Starting with my darkest darks, I've got a mixture here of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. It's sort of a dark purple mix, and it's probably hard to see, but I've got a dark mixture, and then there's the previous dark mixture, which was closer to a mid-tone, but I'm trying to make the dark pattern a specific shape as well. I feel like I can push the light a little bit. Most of the light is on this right-hand side of the tree, so I'm keeping that in mind. And the left-hand portion of the tree is darker, and that goes for this tree as well. And I decided to lighten up the tree behind it to get a little bit of separation. And again with this one, trying to break up this shape with another shape. I want to alter the shape of this tree. It seems a little too perfectly elliptical, maybe. I've decided to darken this tree a bit. I want it to be slightly lighter in value than the tree in front of it so that I create a feeling of depth, but I do want it to be dark enough that it looks like a tree. I'll do the same here, add some dark portions on the left-hand side, suggestion of a trunk. Still using my number 6 natural bristle flat. Alright, I've got a mixture of titanium white and ultramarine blue with a touch of alizarin crimson, painting in the shadow portion of the clouds. At this point I'm using thicker paint and no medium. I have been using Gamblin's Neo McGilt for the first part of the painting, which is sort of like liquid. Working back into the sky. I've added a bit more ultramarine to the mix this time. When adding the lighter portions to this tree, I've got to be careful not to make them too light in value. Often when we paint trees, we'll make them too light. All right, so here's what I finished up with. This painting took about 2.5 hours to complete. It was finished on site. My goals with this painting were to have a convincing feeling of light and also a strong composition based on simple shapes. I've counted about 8 simple shapes in this painting. We've got the dark trees here, dark trees here, the background hills, the light portion of the clouds, the blue part of the sky, the trail, and then the light portion of the hills. Once those shapes are established, I can work into those shapes with delicate shifts in color and value to add a bit of definition. But again, I'm really careful not to add too many details because I do not want to break up the overall design. As you guys know, I like painting water scenes, but I do also enjoy painting trees. I think trees offer an opportunity to compose with simple shapes. When painting the ocean, it can be challenging because the shapes are constantly moving. So it's nice to paint something that is more or less static and not in motion. I know I talk a lot on this channel about breaking down a scene into simple shapes, but I cannot overstate how important this is. Again, to do this, you can squint to throw your eyes out of focus, and then you will eliminate detail and you will see the scene in terms of big shapes, which once you start composing that way, there's no turning back. I think you'll see that your work will improve dramatically. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. There's also a PayPal tip jar down below. If you got something from this video and you want to help keep me making these videos, it's much appreciated. Other than that, stay creative. I'll see you guys in the next video.